Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. If you're watching this video and it's Salah time, please pause it and go pray and come back when you're done. Please check out the description section of this video to support the channel. Alright, so by now we as Muslims know not to expect anything from Manosphere guru Myron Gaines after him previously platforming Zionists on his show, which I covered a few months back. And as we also know, there is no point in haram policing Myron because he regularly goes to the brink of takfiring himself by repeatedly saying he is not religious, despite being privileged enough to be born Muslim. And as you can see here, Myron presents himself as someone who supports Palestine and opposes Israel's oppression of the Palestinian people. However, like I said, at the same time, he has no problem with platforming Zionists like Laura Loomer and Tommy Robinson for monetary purposes, which once again shows where his priorities lie. Myron is a businessman. He knows Tommy Robinson has a following and is trending, so it makes sense to him to collaborate with him. It seems for Myron that his business success and his dedication to free speech comes before Islam and being a Muslim. Some of his online rivals even claim that Myron is someone that dislikes his Sudanese Muslim roots and his skin colour and instead favours white people more because of this. I can't be 100% sure about that, but what I do know is that he is quick to stereotype Muslims. Look at this tweet where he copies Tate and his prejudice against South Asians, namely Pakistanis, Bangladeshis, Indians and Afghans, most of whom are Muslim, where he labels them as smelling bad after commenting on a picture of a Hindu ritual. Myron prides himself on being a smart man, but is pretty incompetent to stereotype South Asian Muslims as smelling bad or being filth, as he called them, by referring to an exclusively Indian Hindu ritual. Additionally, his country of origin is Sudan, another beautiful Muslim nation, which is very similar to Pakistan, Bangladesh, Afghanistan and India. Let's roll a clip of Myron talking to Tommy Robinson about his opinion on why the UK riots took place.
You also mentioned that the government mobilized Muslims to blame the English Defense League, which is an organization that you used to run. They've kind of been using you as the fall guy to say, Tommy Robinson is the face of these riots. He's the guy that's anti-Muslim. He's the guy that's anti-migration.
What I believe has built up to these riots that you're seeing now. Since October the 7th, Hamas rallies, pro-Palestinian rallies, have took over our capital city. I then made the first call that I've made in years for a mass demonstration of patriots. I'm detained under terrorism legislation. It's for the instigation and preparation of acts of terrorism. I'm on bail. I have to return on the 26th of October for breaching terrorism legislation. I'm explaining to you why young men, English men, took to the cities of many major cities in this country and were so angry. Why they're angry with the police. People ask, why are they attacking the police? Well, the police have been oppressing us. The police have been attacking our women. The police have been detaining us and arresting us and treating us totally different to any other community.
You feel as though the British citizens are being unfairly targeted and persecuted much stronger than the foreigners that come in that break the law.
Totally, man.
Can you come to the United States or no? Is the United States a possibility or no?
I'm not allowed in the United States.
Really? Why not?
So I got 10 months in jail for illegally entering the United States of America. I spent 10 months in UK prison for that.
As you saw, Tommy equates the UK riots happening as a result of pro-Palestinian protests, which he deceptively labelled as Hamas rallies. The riots were marketed by the far right as being motivated by illegal immigration, but here is Tommy now saying they were Hamas's fault. Come on guys, at least agree on the lies you're going to tell to cover up your Islamophobic and racist thuggery on the streets of Britain. The blame Hamas narrative sounds very familiar, doesn't it? It's very Israeli of Tommy to use that as an excuse. Tommy also talked about Muslims, minorities and immigrants getting preferential treatment from the UK police over white British people. This is nuts. Nowhere in the world do you find the police siding with minorities over white people, not even in the UK. The UK police are majority white and more than likely don't want the UK to be an Islamic country either, just like Tommy. I would say they would at the very least treat everyone the same, but from what people from black and brown communities in the UK say from their experience, they are stereotyped and treated much worse than white people by the police. I'm not saying this to discriminate against white people, I'm simply making the point that Tommy's claims are false. The rioters were treated more harshly than the pro-Palestinian protesters because there has been virtually zero crime during the UK-wide Palestinian demonstrations, whereas the far-right rioters were burning down and destroying city centres and towns. Tommy admitted he is currently on bail for terror charges and is not permitted to enter the USA due to immigration fraud. Ironically, he is the epitome of the extremist migrant he is projecting onto others. It's not a conspiracy. This man is a dangerous deviant that promotes hate and prejudice with an extended rap sheet of crimes. He is not a hero. Let's take a look at the next clip where Myron asks Tommy why he hates immigration and Islam.
Because people have, said, oh, well, Tommy's anti-migration, but then some people say, well, he likes Indians coming in 6, and then people say, oh, he's anti-Muslim, he's anti-this, he's anti-that. Can you tell the people specifically what you're anti, whether it's anti-migration, anti-Muslim, is it anti-illegal immigration? What is it specifically that you dislike and think the biggest problem is?
We need to end immigration right now. When it comes to Islam, majority of Muslims, I find, don't follow the Quran to the words. We have a problem when they do. We have extremism, non-integration, we have violence, we have jihad, when someone takes that book literally. So my problem is the teachings of Islam, the teachings of Muhammad. Now, most people don't follow it. Most Muslims I know are cultural Muslims. They're gambling in the bookie shop. They're drinking a few beers. They're living a normal life. Because those Muslims live a normal life, probably like yourself, Myron, that doesn't mean Islam's great for the West. We do not believe that white English people should be a minority in our country. It's our country. So I'm very strongly opposed to Islam and its power, and it needs to be stopped. I don't want to see Great Britain become an Islamic nation.
So you have an issue with radical Islam. You want England to stay England, and that means what it was always been, which is Caucasian, white people. You're for immigration to a degree, but you think right now immigration needs to stop, and we need to keep England white. Is that accurate?
We need to keep England should remain a majority white, Caucasian right? country. Of course it should, okay. And that's not a racist thing to say.
Basically, you don't want the British culture to turn into a Muslim-run country. You want England to stay what it's always been, a predominantly white country. You are okay with immigration to a degree, but at this point, you think all immigration should just stop. Even for Sikhs and Indians too? You think for just everybody, whether you're Muslim, Indian, Sikh, immigration?
I think presently we need to stop immigration.
Stop altogether?
We need to stop it, There are different cultures. Ours is superior. Okay. That's it. Not all cultures are equal.
As you saw, Myron asked Tommy if he is anti-Islam or anti-immigration or just anti-Muslim immigration, excluding the Hindu and Sikh communities, or even just anti-illegal immigration. The only acceptable answer to that question you could maybe get away with without being labelled as a bigot is maybe anti-illegal immigration. But disgracefully, Tommy answered yes to all categories by not only admitting that he is a complete Islamophobe, but he also said he is against all immigration, legal and illegal, which includes Muslims, Hindus and Sikhs. So to all you non-Muslim people of colour that support him, keep in mind that if Tommy's dream of deporting all Muslims out of the UK came true, he would be coming after you next. Tommy also admitted that he has a problem with Muslims that follow their religion properly, but he tolerates cultural Muslims who imitate non-Muslims by doing destructive haram acts such as drinking alcohol and gambling, and even cited Myron as an example of such token sinful people. The slave master vibes were just too creepy for me at this point. On top of this, he stated that the UK should be an exclusively white country and that his culture is superior to all other cultures. This is a disgusting example of supremacy and discrimination. Let's take a look at the next clip where Myron asked Tommy about his stance on Israel and Palestine.
All right, let me ask you this. Israel-Palestine, obviously there's a conflict going on. You mentioned that October 7th kind of made it a bit more, I guess it aggravated certain situations in the United Kingdom. What are your thoughts on the conflict? Obviously, you talked about Hamas a little bit before. You mentioned their charter, which I did look at the charter. I see that it's more about eradicating Israel versus getting rid of Jews in the revised charter. But what are your thoughts in general with the conflict?
My thoughts are that I understand jihad. So I understand Islam and I understand jihad. Mm-hmm. Now, Israel was surrounded by jihadists. The Jews were there first. They were driven from their lands. It's like Muslims now. It's like us saying, okay, well, you're all in Luton. You've colonised Luton. Leave. Leave now. They're all quick to argue about colonisation whilst they're in the process of colonising Great Britain and changing the face of our country.
You know, you could go thousands of years. You could go back to 1948. Where do you start? So depending on who you talk to, everyone has a different viewpoint on this. So of like, whose land is it? Who was there first, etc.
I look at the numbers and the research of the people in Palestine who supported the October 7th attacks. It was the majority. In the schools there, they're teaching the children to hate everything.
Tommy completely ignored Israel's evil actions and instead blamed Islam as usual, despite there being no real religious reason for Israel's war crimes except maybe anti-Muslim discrimination on their side. He also completely blamed the Palestinians who are currently being genocided and shamelessly accused the innocent children in Gaza of anti-Semitism to justify them being wiped out indiscriminately. And once again, he sprinkled in the usual Zionist propaganda slogan October 7th to cover up Israel's war crimes. The only pushback Myron, a supposed pro-Palestinian Muslim, gave him was softly opposing Tommy's false narrative that the Zionists were there first. Tommy also claimed that the tiny minority of Muslims in Britain have supposedly colonised the UK on par with how Israel has actually colonised Palestine. The facts are that Muslims in the UK live under British rule, but Israelis on the other hand took over Palestine, stole their land and brutally rule over them. To make that comparison is ridiculous and outright disgusting. There are many sources linking Israel with the UK rise, stating it was a Zionist plot involving Tommy Robinson designed to distract the world from their current ethnic cleansing efforts in Palestine. Take a look at this.
Israel is attacking the UK. This is not a conspiracy theory, it's a fact.
To say that we will not be slaves to Allah and Allah's representatives.
Instigators of the riots have received money from Israel. Even the Times of Israel have exposed the financing of it. But why attack the UK? 12 days ago, the new UK government dropped its objection to the ICC's arrest warrant for the Israeli PM. And last Friday, the Daily Mail broke the story that arms exports to Israel have been suspended, hence the increase in violence over the weekend. The EDL was originally registered as a limited company in 2010 by former Israeli soldier Roberta Moore. And then there's Paul Senato, also known as Paul Ray, was also a key figure in the early days of the EDL. In a blog interview from 2007, he claimed to have fled to Israel for his safety and has alleged links to Mossad. Look how fellow co-founder Stephen Yaxley Lennon this very week tried to falsely link Hamas, a prescribed terror organization, to the riots.
Why are people angry? I'll tell you why they're angry. Because Hamas were allowed to overtake London, overtake our capital city.
And who helps fund him? People like US tech billionaire Robert Shillman, who's also a major donor to the Friends of the Israel Defense Forces. Wake up. A foreign power is spreading disinformation to sow division and increase anti-Muslim sentiment. And that takes attention off their genocide in Gaza.
As you saw, the news report stated that the new UK government is not sending any more weapons to Israel, as well as stating that the UK is no longer opposing Netanyahu's arrest by international authorities, and that is the reason why Israel is funding people like Tommy Robinson to incite riots in the UK. And also you saw these reports are surprisingly coming from British and Israeli media sources. Let's look at a clip of Mohammed Hijab responding to Myron's latest collaboration with Tommy Robinson.
Tonight, Stephen Yaxley Lennon's going on Fresh and Fit. I mean, Myron's saying that he sees both sides, free speech absolutist, this stuff.
Not giving someone an opportunity to come to a podcast is not an expression of a lack of freedom of speech. You don't need to facilitate for the enemy the pulpit for him to disseminate or perpetuate his falsehoods and lies. I've already spoken to Myron about this in the Fresh and Fit thing, but
I remember.
These are logical arguments I'm making to him and to other people, but really and truly it deprecates from him as a person, and it even deprecates from Andrew Tate and everyone else who associates somehow loosely with Tommy Robinson. I think the reason why it's happening is because they realize a lot of these far-right people watch
share
their
an
stuff.
audience,
Yeah, share an audience. And bro, you can't just try and have a big net that captures all the audience. This doesn't work like that.
I've kind of, I've done that before.
Yeah.
And you have to realize that you have to take a stance. I agree. I don't think that he should be on that show. I think that there's lines some people cross, and at that point you're an enemy of my religion. And if you disrespect Islam, you're disrespecting, it's equivalent to disrespect to your mother, if not greater. At that point, you're an enemy of mine. I understand his point of view because he sees content as like, yeah. But he's doing overwhelmingly good things. So
he is, and I
want
hope,
to focus on that.
like I said with Andrew Tate, people shouldn't push him too much. I said this before with Myron. I really do hope he finds his way.
He had a big rant, but the other day I'll show you this about Haram Police. This actually goes into your rant earlier. But
oh really?
Yeah. I'll show you.
All you Haram Police, like literally, you guys, you guys. I'm not Sneeko. You guys can't come in here and bully me and tell me, well, that's Torah. Shut the up. I told you guys a million times I'm not fucking religious. I don't sit here and say I'm a fucking Mukman or none of that bullshit. All right? So y'all are not gonna fucking bully me into doing what you guys want. I'm not Sneeko, man. I love Sneeko. I'm glad that he reverted everything else like that. I'm going to do what I want to do. I never purported myself to be a religious individual, all right? I never did. So get the f out of here with that shit. You guys want to go ahead and watch a channel that's super religious or whatever, go watch one of the Muslim channels. That's great. You could go ahead and watch Sneeko. You could watch Mohammed Hijab. You could watch Ali Dawah.
This guy is speaking truth, man.
Yeah, he doesn't do a Muslim show.
He's right.
Making a point. It's not a Muslim show. It's a show that hosts platforms, debates, stuff like this. It's separate from his personal beliefs.
Look at his reaction here. It shows that there's been a failure on the side of these guys that are commenting, bro.
Yeah.
The assumption is that the best way to get someone to do something that you want them to do from a religious perspective is to just badger them. Haram, 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 haram. Bro,
it doesn't work.
Psychologically, it's not the right way of doing it. I think that he does have a point, Akhi. Even though I disagree with the guy on so many issues and I hammered him and his friend.
So Mohammed Hijab stated he already advised Myron publicly that as a Muslim platforming Zionists and Islamophobes is wrong, as it reeks of lacking strong principles and morals. He also stated that content creators like Tate and Myron may do so because they share crossover conservative audiences. Sneeko, to his credit, said he also used to do this, but since he became Muslim, he does not engage in such behaviour, as he now takes any disrespect of Islam as if someone has insulted his mother. Alhamdulillah. Mohammed Hijab said we shouldn't push Myron, referring to the haram police. Look, I'll admit the haram police can be over the top. I get criticism from them too, but they're not always wrong. But I get what the brother's saying. The real questions we should be posing are not why are the haram police complaining, but why are the haram police following Myron in the first place? And also why are Muslim influencers like Sneeko and Mohammed Hijab befriending a man like Myron who platforms Zionists and Islamophobes? If the haram police are so halal, why are they watching Myron, a man who openly says he does not follow Islam? Personally, I think the Muslim community pushing back does send the message that we don't condone Myron's behaviour, but he's going to do what he's going to do regardless. I think a better course of action to take is to not complain, but instead to boycott him like any other brand that supports Zionism or Islamophobia, and that applies to both Muslim viewers and content creators. Thank you for watching. Make sure to join my free Telegram group via the link in the description, where we as Muslims can speak freely and without censorship about issues like this, and in order to guide and support each other in our deen. And remember to like, subscribe and become a channel member for access to exclusive content. Until next time, inshallah, Jazakallah khair.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allah.